Pretty good. Look, I'll admit with you, I enjoyed the film. I'm not gonna lie, I enjoyed the film. I'm not saying that it's a perfect film. I'm not saying it's amazing. I'm not saying it's a classic. It ain't no Basil the Great Master Detective. It's better than Tenet. Sorry, that's better than Tenet. And look, let's just keep it straight. I'm never watching the cartoon. It's never happening. I'm not watching cartoon where Eddie Murphy is a flipping what's it called Phoenix or something cracking jokes. It ain't happening. So I'm cool on that. And I think the fact that this might be based on a true story or something. I'd rather have this that's actually tells a real story than some Disney-fied thing with a musical number and Eddie Murphy cracking jokes. I'm cool on that. I'm cool. Um, but look, again, for me, I think that just watching this, you see, when it started, I was like, okay, this seems a bit cheesy, and it was cheesy, but I thought it would be like the wrong kind of cheesy. So when it started, I was like, okay, this just seems a bit. It seems a bit ropey, a bit. But then once they now really got into the groove and the vibe, and then they were really telling the story and the hook, I like this is, you're a woman and a woman at the time. You're just there just to flip in, be a cleaner, a cook, and there just to be like a good wife, and how she's special and so forth. I was like, okay, 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 okay. And there were some bits where it was funny. There were the comedy bits. I laughed, you see, for me, this was like, see, this could have been really good. I think that certain bits they could have expanded upon. And I think this is where, like, this is where really good writing comes into it. Where, like, you have the good bones of a story, but you could just expand it upon it to really make it something much more memorable. Because I think the best part, I think, was when Mulan was with like her troop and the troops and everything, and how she was trying to hide being a woman, but by being a guy and all that kind of stuff. It's just like when they said, okay, you guys remember you have to have showers and everything. She's like, okay, so who wants to be on night watch? She's like, okay, me. I want to be on night watch, please. I don't want to see this nude guys here and stuff. So that stuff was amusing, but I just felt like if they could have expanded that upon, and I think they could have maybe done more with the relationship between her and her troops and that regiment and so forth, and really created much more of like a family feel. But stop, no, it was cool. I mean, I basically, it's one of those things of where I wasn't bored. I enjoyed it, and it's so basically it's like a solid 8 out of 10. 7.58 out of 10. It's like a 7.58 out of 10 of like, you know what? It's enjoyable, and I think the action scenes are well done, but sometimes they may be a bit over elaborate. And I don't know whether it's because it's a Disney film, they feel they have to maybe be a bit more crazy and more colorful. I mean, the colors are popping, but the action is as good. But I just thought that I think the wire work was a bit too overdone, and I think that they could have kept it a lot more grounded. Because whenever they were on the ground and just doing the choreography on the ground, and it was much realer, it was actually pretty good. But then when you now see people flying and jumping off and doing these flips and kicking the thing, I'm like, basically, it's reminded me of what's it called? Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Like it's had that aesthetic and that feel. But look, guys, Donnie Yen, Donnie flipping Yen. Donnie Yen is actually an underrated actor, man. But when Donnie Yen starts doing his wire walk and his sword and everything, I'm like, ooh wee, he tight. Um, but oh no, 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 no. I mean, it was not. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. It was it was a good watch. It was a good watch. Because it's just one of those things of where, like, that it's not every film has to be a masterpiece. Not every film has to be like, oh, this groundbreaking, breathtaking thing. Like, it's a Disney film. It's for kids. And I just think for a film for kids, simple story with a pretty good moral about, living your truth, even if you're a woman, if you're good enough, you can still do what men do if you're skilled enough. And, honoring your family, respecting your family, and just these cool things. So it's a cool watch, and I just think that it's unfortunate that this didn't go released in the cinema. I think that was unfortunate because I feel, because this just felt a more authentic than, let's say, if it would have been like bastardized by Hollywood and everything. Because I don't know whether like directors and so forth were like Caucasian or something, but it just felt a lot more authentic than how it could have turned out. Music was cool. I liked the music, and I think one of my favorite pieces of the music was when she's basically like walking up the steps with the water. I'm like, oh my, I want to listen to that track. But you see, for me, I just love, which is why it just reminded me of there's this film called The Last Emperor, which is I think based on a true story about this like child emperor from back in like Chinese times. And I just love just looking at these things with different cultures, their clothes and so forth. And me just viewing that is like, man, I just wish we could see something from ancient Egypt. Ancient Egypt, a real authentic story of some of the great stories of the great leaders in ancient Egypt, Again, which is why it was so cool watching Apocalypse and that's culture. So look, man, I think if you just want something very simple that isn't this great thing, but just a very simple, decent, cool film, a few laughs, really, really good visuals. The visuals are really good, really popping off and everything. It is cheesy. See, for me, it's cheesy. But this kind of cheesy, I'm like, sometimes cheesy can be like, okay, but the cheesiness here is like, okay, I'm fine with it. So yeah, I enjoyed it, but I think it could have been better. I feel that they could have added a bit more meat to the story. I think that they really didn't expand upon the regiment story. I think that was a really good nugget to really expand upon with regards to. I think maybe it would have been cool if maybe they had been given more missions to do before the main mission, just for us to really. It's almost as how you grew to love the regiment on Halo Reach, like that. I think that was what was missing. So by the end, you didn't really feel the rapport that she had with her fellow soldiers and so forth. So I just thought that was one bit I was like, because it was all cast well and the guys were really good and I think they had good chemistry, but it wasn't really expanded upon, which was unfortunate. So that was like one drawback of the whole thing. But yeah, look, see for me, I'm an action junkie. I love kung fu movies. I love martial arts movies. So whenever I just see guys do the stuff, it's cool. And this is the key thing as well. Shows that I'm not sexist. The only woman I can take seriously doing action are Asian women. That's it. And when you just see this lady do the action, I believe it. It just sells it better. When I see like a Daisy Ridley do something or Jessica Biel, I'm like, this looks stupid. But when I just see her do it, just in terms of how she executes the lunge with the sword, how she executes the kicks, the forward rolls, the movements, the taunts, I'm like, because she just sells it a lot better than if it was other women of other cultures, So I just think specifically for Asian women, like Chinese, Japanese women, they just know how to do action better. That's just for me feels more believable, And I thought, the ladiness, it was alright. And also, people say I should boycott Mulan because of the whole thing with Hong Kong and China. And my response to that is this: have Hong Kong stood with black people with regards to racism? Have they stood with black people with regards to how African Americans have been suffering and so forth? Has there ever been a Hong Kong at all who have gone to marching on the streets in solidarity with the racism that black people feel all over the world or in America? So now, you know what, I'm good. Again, for me, again, the whole Hong Kong China thing, I know it's a crazy situation. Hong Kong should be left alone and so forth. But my thing is that why should I, as a black man, join with your boycott of this when you haven't joined in the boycott of issues pertaining to black people? Yeah, man, I'm cool on that one. But yeah, Mulan, decent watch, enjoyable watch. Could have been better, could have been much, much better, but for what it was, I thought it was cool. I enjoyed it.